our lives. To find out how and why, please meet my guests. The first is Dr. Lewis Robinson, and he is Director of Scientific Computing at IBM's Data Processing Division. Ted Nelson is a self-described computer freak. He's taught at Swarthmore College and the University of Illinois. Mr. Nelson is also the author of Computer Lib. Leslie Solomon is Technical Director of Popular Electronics magazine and has developed and introduced many home computers. Incidentally, the Sol computer, which he will demonstrate later in this program, is named after him. Peter Sprague is Chairman of the Board of the National Semiconductor Corporation and Chairman of the Board and President of Advent Corporation, makers of home projection TV systems. Nolan Bushnell is Chairman of Atari Incorporated, the leading producer of home video computer systems. Mr. Bushnell developed his first video game in his own garage in 1970 with $250. I wish I'd been there and been his partner. In 1976, he sold the company for $28 million. Wow. You know, I hear myself saying computers are simple and friendly and easy to understand, but down deep, a computer absolutely boggles my mind. How can a little tiny thing contain thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of pieces of information? I mean, can you explain it in a way that civilians can understand?
I was looking to you, Nolan, for that one.
Okay. Well, it's a question that with electronics, it seems like we've gotten into a system that as we get smaller and smaller, it can actually do more and more because the interconnects and some of the other technical things become actually easier. And the computer, as it can have more systems and things like that, can be programmed by the people doing it to do virtually anything that can be broken down into a step-by-step recipe.
And if you think about it, a car engine is very complicated, but people drive cars all the time. So it really, the fact that computers are still very complicated and getting even more complicated, but the way in and out of them is getting easier and easier. So while most people who drive cars don't understand engines, they still manage to get down to the grocery store and back.
What you're saying is that we'll all have computers of many kinds doing many jobs for us, and we won't understand them any more than we understand the motor of our automobile.
I think that's a very good analogy.
Yeah,
We'll understand their usefulness and what they'll do for us, but we don't have to understand the actual mechanics down at the smallest possible level. The computer, in a final analysis, is a machine that's made out of a lot of switches. Originally, they were made out of tubes and then transistors, and now the little silicon devices that we use. And the smallness comes from the fact that we're able to fabricate millions of switches on very, very small pieces of real estate on that silicon. Each switch does a very simple thing. It turns on or off. It's the collection of the hundreds of thousands of switches that are put together in a logical fashion in the machine that really gives it its power, that gives it the capability for us to program it to do the complex things that we'll be able to demonstrate.
You must remember
Yes,
one
sir.
thing. The computer may be a very complex piece of machinery, but you have to look at it as a magic box. You do not have to understand how a television set works in order to use one. You turn it on, by magic, there is a picture. You do not have to understand how a car works. You turn it on and it goes. You must look at the computer not as a complex, interlocking sequence of silicon chips and parts, but as a magic box, a keyboard that the human can communicate to, and the computer will do some magical thing, then communicate back to the human.
You know, Ted, I don't understand how the telephone works.
I don't either.
And I don't understand how my TV set works. You turn it on and there's Zsa Zsa Gabor again. So we're going to feel that way about the computer always, right?
I hope not. There are several senses. We don't need to know how the electronics works, but each time we turn on the computer to do a different thing, we should understand the particular ideas behind that program. The trouble is that people are so afraid of the box itself that they can't really focus their minds and say, oh, I see, this system only does X, Y, and Z. And this is the problem with making people feel relaxed enough about computers to learn what each program is doing.
When we bake bread, do we necessarily have to understand all of the chemistry that takes place in order for the loaf of bread to rise in the oven? I mean, there's a lower level of understanding in order for us to be proficient at cooking and baking bread and making cakes. And that's the level at which we can use computers. We can learn how to use it as a tool, as an art form, as an information processing device, without necessarily understanding all of the chemistry and physics that lies beneath the surface in the actual machine.
Okay, folks, it's not really all that easy. You're not going to understand it any more than I understand a television set, and the hell with it, you don't need to. I've been reading a lot about all of you, and Nolan Bushnell, you said that the computer was a great solution looking for a problem.
Well, I was saying that as far as the home was concerned. Right now, there are a lot of things going on in the home, and no one really perceives that they really need a computer there. And so what has to be done is for the housewife to decide, gee, I have this problem. That can be solved with a computer, but
Her basic problem is with her husband. What can you do about that?
Well, that's
See,
a
one
good
out of
one.
every 3 marriages ends in divorce, or 1 in every 3 4/8 marriages ends in divorce, and another 1 in every 3 should. So that's the basic problem. Can you do something with a computer?
Well, maybe we can have him play games with the computer enough to stay out of her hair a little bit. Or there's probably, you know, there's the marriage compatibility indicator that Peter has invented.
Peter Sprague, are you, I read among the interesting things you've written that you are working on a computer system, presumably for husbands and wives, that will allow simultaneous orgasm.
Well,
Allow? It will promise.
No, I'm not really laboring very hard on this issue. About 4 years ago, I got a wild idea that this thing was practical and probably could be done. So I thought of writing it up as a patent and submitting the patent to Playboy, but I needed a patent attorney with a sense of humor, and they're very hard to find. So I still haven't found one, so we haven't written it up yet. But
It is a practical invention?
oh, I think it would probably work. I was discussing it with Nolan. He thinks it's possible. I call it the onboard compatibility synchronizer.
On-board, well, yes. that
OX
makes
for
sense.
short.
Sure.
We never have quite figured out whose ox is being gored throughout this whole story, but the problem with the onboard compatibility synchronizer is simply a thin band with a red light-emitting diode and a green light-emitting diode, and 4 sensors that have been derived from the medical space effort. You need skin electricity, temperature, pulse rate, and possibly alpha waves, and they go through a tiny little microprocessor chip, and at the right moment, the red light goes off and the green light goes on. For people who have difficulty with little lights, you can, for $19.95, you could probably add a buzzer.
Well, what would the red light signify, or the green light?
I would guess that the young lady in question has reached the right moment for the...
And then a buzzer ring.
Something like that. That's
But,
Pavlov's
Well,
early
the part
work.
that-
For the man already having trouble, it's increasing his mortification.
Well, but what
Buzzers
about-
going off, lights going on.
Well, then what he does, what they do in California, I gather, is they then watch the whole thing on their Advent video beam and see an instant replay to see where they went wrong.
Yeah, they do strange things in
I
California.
guess
the part I wanted to
it's
add.
for the man who has everything but doesn't know what to do with it.
Something along those
Well,
lines.
the part I wanted to add to this is that you know, Woody Allen talks a lot about that if he's going too fast, he starts thinking about baseball. But what you could do is you could determine the difference, you know, and if he was going too fast, you could just pipe baseball into the earphone and, you know, and then distract the guy's mind so you could get the, you know, get some positive.
See, what I was dealing with is I'm very jealous of Nolan's success in making adult toys of one kind or another, but still, the best adult toy is another adult. So I was attempting to involve the computer in this. Whether it's going to make your happy home any happier, I seriously doubt. One of the reasons I've actually never mentioned this before in the last 4 years is that I'm scared to death that somebody might order one, then a whole bunch of people might order a lot of them, and it'll be one more step in the wrong direction. Frankly, I belong to the take a long walk in the woods school of life, and I don't actually have any interest in having one of these
But
things.
think of 220 million people walking around this country with a big grin on their face.
This is going to happen. There will be a whole sub-branch of the field of intelligent marital aids and electrodildonics, but I think that you know, we don't want to emphasize this side of thing. We're interested in computer input-output at the more intelligent level.
Right, like keeping your income taxes straight and
Right.
your bank book, your balance check.
And making people smarter and happier.
Smarter and happier. What kind of things are you doing currently, Leslie, to make people happier with your computers?
Well, I'm essentially a tool maker in that I develop hardware that is the computing equipment does things, and I, through the magazine, give these ideas to the thousands of computer hobbyists in the country who build this.
But your computers do what? They play music?
Our computers can do just about anything you can imagine.
What
we
for the
can play
housewife?
music. Oh, for the housewife? We have many, many programs which will, for example, eliminate those thousands of bits of paper and notes and memos that people leave laying around. You can program the computer on a daily basis, birthdays, telephone numbers, zip codes, addresses, and if you know, for example, I know a Max in St. Louis, but I don't know his address, you can enter the computer and say Max St. Louis, and the computer will then, in a matter of a microsecond or two, put this data on the screen. This will eliminate the thousands of little notes that people tend to lose. The birthdays, holidays, gifts, 24-hour-a-day reminder. The computer can be made very simply to control any appliance in the house at any
But
time.
if you forget somebody's birthday, like I forget Dr. Robinson's birthday,
Right.
but then I've forgotten it. Will this computer on his birthday ring out and say, hey, it's Dr. Robinson's
If
birthday?
you choose to program it this way, otherwise you can just say Robinson, doctor, birthday, and the computer will make a fast search and say September the 15th, whatever. Or it will ring a bell the day before so you can buy him a present.
That's
Let's do
terrific.
that.
Department stores would love that kind of thing.
Okay, that would be great for me, too.
See, the
If we could get everybody to do that for me. Don't you think that in the long run, though, that the use of computers by individuals will come more as a result of some social changes, the evidence of which we already start to see, that it's pretty hard for us to predict and describe social change and then project how we're going to behave in that new environment. But if we can let our imaginations go a little bit and think about how it would be to live in an information society where information is readily accessible, just as you've described, very easily, without a great deal of effort, without hardly any effort at all, then how logical and easy it would be for us to access that information. Let me give an example. So say today, if you were going to go on an automobile vacation, say for a 1,000-mile trip, even though you might be able to do this, I think only the most compulsive person would really go about it this way. Take your car down to some elegant diagnostic clinic where statistics have been kept about the life expectancy of every component of the car, like the water pump and the fuel pump. And if your fuel pump happens to be 40,000 miles old, and if the national statistics say that fuel pumps fail between 35,000 and 45,000 miles, then you're going to replace it before you take the trip to eliminate any chance of failure. No one would really do that kind of thing. And then when you got home before the trip, would you really feel like picking up the phone and calling the Weather Bureau in each of 3 or 4 states and ask them what the weather has been like for the last 10 days so you know whether to bring a sweater and an overcoat? And would you call the state police in each state and ask them what the road conditions are along the highway so you can properly schedule a motel reservation?
No,
that would be such a compulsive act that the benefit you would gain from doing all that would not be commensurate with what you would gain. But what would it be like in an information society where as you're walking out to the car, all you had to do was just press a button, and all that information was readily available to you because the diagnostic information would be available from your automobile computer, the road information would be available from the highway departments because it's all computerized anyway. The weather information would come from the weather computer, and it would be as silly to leave the house without getting that information as it would be today to leave the house without turning the faucet off, because that's so easy to do.
And that's all doable today.
Each one of those things is demonstrable today.
And the objective is to make our lives simpler using computers, not to add a new gadget that's just the crowning gadget, but to add a new integrative force to your life, so that to replace the uses of paper that don't have to do with wiping, essentially to keep all the information you want and make it extremely easy to get at.
But we're going to be rendered almost obsolete if things are going to, if it says stay out of Delaware, get yourself a new fuel pump.
What a challenge! What a challenge to be.
Leave 2 kids at home.
What a challenge to be able to use that information so that we improve our enjoyment of life, so that we improve the way we produce in our vocations and the way we enjoy ourselves in our avocations. It's not that it takes away that pleasure; it makes the opportunity available for the first time to really be able to do those things with thought and logic.
We have to stop, and when we return, we're going to demonstrate 2 highly sophisticated IBM computers. You won't believe your eyes. We'll be right back. You met our experts, and they told you about the new miracle, the computer. But now you're going to see the miracle with your own eyes. Incidentally, our usual brilliant lighting won't be true tonight because all of it is focused on the machines, so we humans will be rather shadowy. Dr. Robinson, who is this gentleman?
Mr. Susskind, this is Mort Sinkoff, a pioneer in computer application development.
I like meeting pioneers.
He's going to demonstrate the IBM 5110, a small computer that can be used in different ways. Right now, we're connected by phone to a larger computer in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and we want to demonstrate the capability. That's a couple hundred miles away.
Now, you have, as I understand it here, all the countries of Europe and their capitals, right?
That's right.
That's correct.
And you can ask any question.
And a lot of demographic information about each country. The average number of cars per capita, the income per capita, gross national product per capita, things of that sort.
Well, then I'd like to know which of the largest countries in Europe has the lowest death rate.
All right. We've asked the machine that question. We've put in the question, what is for which countries in Europe have the larger than average population and lower than average death rate? And the answer that came out was, as you can see, Poland.
Poland?
Romania, Spain, and Yugoslavia.
Well, that's the end of all the Polish jokes. I mean, it's going to be over. Poland, Romania
That's right.
has the smallest death rate in its population, considering large population?
That's right.
Okay, which country has the highest birth rate? Which country of Europe has the highest birth
Okay,
rate?
Mort will type that question in for us. Now, this machine has a memory, and I'm holding in my hand this chip. This is a memory chip that's inside that computer, and it holds 48,000 bits of information. Is one of the memory devices in the machine.
You're kidding, that piece?
There it is.
48,000 pieces of information?
That's right, like zeros and ones and yeses and nos, or up and down, or male or female.
Makes the human
Now,
brain look like that.
There are other memory devices like this magnetic tape cassette, which is in the machine. It can hold 200,000 characters of information. And
200,000.
then back here behind us, there's a disk device, and each disk plaque, like this one, each flexible disk can hold a 1,200,000 characters of information. Actually, there are two in the machine, in this particular machine, so it has a capacity of 2,400,000 characters of information.
This thing has 1,000,000.
And this is a little phonograph record-like device. It's inside the sleeve that turns around, and the information is recorded magnetically on the surface of the disk.
All right.
The country that has the greatest birth rate is Iceland. And that's because probably the winters are long.
Iceland?
That's right.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's cold up there.
And long winters.
So that's what they're doing.
That's right.
Uh-huh. Oh, well, which country in Europe do the women have the longest lifespan?
Okay.
I would guess Italian, maybe, because the husband leaves him alone a lot. And that pasta is so good. If it comes out Poland again, I quit.
And Mort is typing in the question, and he's asking the machine for the countries that have the women lifespan equal to the greatest of all the countries in Europe. And there's the answer.
Ireland.
Iceland.
Iceland.
Again.
Again?
That's
Well,
right.
how? Why? It's cold, and they're in there doing it all the time, and then maybe that's good for you.
Now, we also have in the
Well, I got to remember these two facts because I can win a lot of bets.
if you learn one new fact each day, it makes
the
the day
highest
worthwhile.
birth rate and the longest woman lifespan, and the answer is Iceland in both cases.
Right. Now, we've also put in the memory of this machine the names and capitals of all the countries in the world. In fact, how many countries are there in them? What, can you ask the machine that? He's asking for the count of the number of countries and see what we get. There are 142 countries in there with the capitals and the longitude and latitude location of each country. And we could ask the machine any question about what is the capital of a country, or which country has a capital, Paris, or what the distance is between any two capitals, or more importantly, we could ask the machine to plan an itinerary for us. Say we're going to take a trip. Say we're going to go from...
I'm going to try to break the machine.
Go ahead.
I'm going to ask the machine, Chad, the country of Chad.
all right,
Okay.
What is its capital?
all right.
Will it tell
Well-
me the population?
We have that also. That's also in the machine.
Yeah, not that I give a damn about Chad, but
Now, We've
Capital
asked the
of
machine
Chad.
what is the capital of Chad, and it prints out the answer.
Fort Laramie.
Right.
Terrific.
Now,
And
one of the nice things that we can do with this machine to demonstrate some of the mathematical capabilities you can put in this kind of a product is that knowing the machine having in its memory the longitude and latitude of each capital, we can plan a trip, an itinerary from one city to another, and then the machine will calculate not only the distances between the cities, but the optimal way to take the trip to minimize the air time.
all right.
So let's plan a trip. Where would you like
Let's
to
go from Washington, D.C., capital of USA,
Okay.
to Moscow, capital of the Soviet Union, to Paris, and then Mexico City.
Okay. So,
Now let's...
Mort, if you'll ask the machine for that
Okay.
itinerary from, we're starting the trip from Washington, and then we'll make a
Routing.
list of all the places we want to go to. So we'll type in that we're routing ourselves from Washington, which is the capital of the United States, to,
Moscow?
let's say, to Moscow. Now let's ask Mort, we're going to now say to Moscow.
Now we'll list the capitals we want to go to.
Right.
Where do you want to
Okay.
go first?
From
Say
Washington to
Moscow.
Moscow.
To Moscow.
Right. Then I'd like to hop over to Paris.
Let's come back across the ocean and see what the
let's
machine
go
does
to
with that.
Mexico
City.
Mexico City is lovely.
Right. And then back, say, to where? To,
Well, why not go to Ottawa, Canada? It's cold there.
okay. Now,
Where else?
pick one more.
I'm tired. That's a
Okay,
big
that's it?
trip.
Okay, then let's see what the answer is. And now the machine is printing out a table for us, and it's telling us the
In
distance
miles.
in miles from Washington to Mexico City, and from Mexico
1,880
City to
miles.
Ottawa, and it's telling us the sequence in which we should make the trip in order to guarantee us that we're using minimum air miles. Now, we've also programmed in the ability of the machine to recognize things like misspellings. For example, let's ask the machine what the capital, what country Paris is the capital of. All right?
Well, but we know that.
Well, or pick one we don't know.
All right. What's the capital of Nigeria?
All right. What's the capital of Nigeria? And let's misspell Nigeria and see what happens.
That's
okay?
easy. N-E-G-E-R.
Okay. Capital of Nigeria, and we'll intentionally misspell Nigeria a little bit, not too badly.
N-E-G-E-R-I-A.
Okay? Now let's see what the machine says to it.
Inertia. Did you mean...
It says,
Algeria? No, we didn't mean
we
Algeria.
didn't mean
So no.
Nigeria. No.
Nigeria.
it says Nigeria.
Nigeria.
Yes.
And it spelled it correctly.
And it's spelled it
That's right.
correctly. So we say yes,
That's
and then it tells us the
Lagos.
answer. Lagos.
Lagos. Fascinating.
Let's
Let's come
move
over to
over
this
here.
one because you can't top it, right? Except you can top it. All right. Now, this gentleman is who?
Now,
Dr. Harvey Long.
This is Harvey Long, and Harvey
Dr.
Long is
Harvey
is a specialist in computer-assisted instruction. He spent his career developing computer programs for teaching children how to use machines for training, and more recently has worked in the area of career planning. And
Now,
prompting.
this machine, believe it or not, as you've told me before, will help a high school student figure out, depending on his set of values, what he hopes to achieve in life, what kinds of jobs he'd be right for, and what college would be best suited for his pocketbook and his ambitions, right?
and his grades and his
grades.
capabilities.
Okay.
And
Now, go ahead. Shall I
For
tell
example, here, we might have a student who's interested in having a job that is fairly secure, doesn't have any great fluctuations when the economy fluctuates. Well, there are 107 jobs
you that have security?
that have security. Well, that's kind of a lot of jobs to take a look at, so let's try to narrow that down. Independence. He doesn't want to be his own boss. He'd like to work for some employer, so we'll say medium and independence. There are 19 jobs that have security rated high and independence rated as medium. Let's
Because
take a-
they're in conflict with each other. Security and independence. Security is usually a big company with a lot of red tape.
That's right. So that's why the 19 over here, although 109 would have that. Let's take a look at what those jobs really are. So the computer now is going back and searching its files.
This is a kid who said, I care most about security and independence.
That's right.
Okay.
And so there are variables that are of concern here beyond this.
Right.
But the computer has just looked at the jobs that fit that category.
Security and, yeah, accountant, yeah.
Right? And some of these require
Business
college
teacher,
education.
customs inspector, he sure has security.
Right?
Not much independent. Well, he can open anybody's bag, I guess.
Sure.
Employment interviewer, a firefighter, yeah.
Security.
foreign language interpreter, gas appliance servicer, gas main fitter, lab technician, lineman.
Here we got a pharmacist thrown
Pharmacist,
in here.
yeah.
Let's take a look now at what indeed the computer might be able to do as far as telling you some outlook information for occupations in this area. We're going to look at those occupations that we have up here, and there are things that might influence you other than those variables
Okay,
that we had
I'm
before.
a pharmacist sort of intrigues me.
Okay, let's take a look then
All
at
he
what
needs
we
to
can
know
find
is
out
how to
about
count pills, right?
Right. Now, the things that we can ask are about the description, what they do, educational requirements, future outlook. Let's get pharmacists up here on the screen and take a look at that. The pharmacists, as far as the future is concerned. Future outlook, according to the computer and the Department of Labor information, the demand for people in this occupation is going to be projected up here now. Now, according to Department of Labor statistics, in 1972, there were about 120,000 pharmacists employed. In 1985, the projection is about 160,000. So, Mr. Susskind, if that's the area that you're interested in, it looks like
It's not booming.
It's not booming, but it's not in the decline either.
right.
So now let's
And
do-
anyway, the
No,
prices they're getting for pills and everything, you're doing very well.
Exactly.
Now, an actual student would be looking at many of the
Right,
other
now the
questions
pharmacist,
that are,
the kid
that are
says,
on
all right, I want to be a pharmacist and because I'm going to make some money and it's an expanding kind of job. What school should I go to?
Right.
I'd like to go to a school in the southeast.
Okay, let's take a look now at the data here. And we have over 1,500 four-year colleges described in the system.
Right.
Now, we've decided, or you've decided, that you want to select a college on the basis of a major. You want to be a pharmacist.
Right.
So pharmacy falls in the area of health professions.
Okay,
So within health professions, there's our pharmacy major.
right.
So we'll indicate to the computer that we want to find out how many colleges have a pharmacy major. And there are 549 colleges
Wow.
in the United States.
And they want $10, $20 a piece for an application.
That's right. You
right.
could consume
So you
all your
can't apply
money in
to all of them.
applying.
Can't apply to 549
Okay.
So
colleges.
you have to
So-
limit it down some.
Right, we'll get it
Okay,
down.
I want to go where it's warm and I want to get out of New York and I sure don't want to go to Hollywood because they're crazy. So I'll
geographic
go to
location.
southeast.
Okay.
Geographic location
so
turns
we'll
out to
go
be
after
important
the
for you.
Geographic location.
Right.
here, Okay.
Right,
And you said the southeast, a nice warm spot.
yep.
Any state in particular? How about
Well,
North
what,
Carolina in there?
Well, don't want any part of West Virginia, Virginia, Tennessee, murder, Mississippi, murder, Louisiana. Oh, those were awful. Give me North Carolina.
Okay, North Carolina. Okay.
Right.
So now we're going to search and find out how many schools of pharmacy do we have in North Carolina. We've got 17. Still,
Okay. Well, cost. I got to worry about.
How about the size of the school?
School.
I mean,
Oh
I know
yeah,
my
I don't
kids
want.
had a
I
preference
want
for
a
small
school
colleges.
between
How about-
10,000 and 20,000.
all right. We'll select our school and the size of the enrollment then. You said 10 and 20,000?
Yep.
Okay.
That's
So
a pretty
we're
big
now look-
college.
Yeah, well, a lot of.
We've got one college. One college that fit that. Let's find out what it was. One college fitting that criteria. University of North Carolina.
I wanted to go there in the beginning.
You're there.
Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
That's right.
Now, time permitting, the student now could get 5 pieces of information.
I'm
about
curious.
that.
We're running out of time, but I want to put the master list up again, and I want to pretend I'm graduating high school. Okay.
Okay.
And I'll
Right.
tell you the things that would interest me, and in
And
the
you know, there are some 22,000 different jobs that are described in this
Right.
kind of a system
All
when it's operational.
All right.
now.
We're going to go back to our values here. That's what you want to select your job.
Right. I want high income.
High income.
I want prestige.
All right, well, check it out on high income. Let's find out how many 99 jobs that have high income.
That's very exciting.
All right.
Okay. I want prestige because that's
Prestige.
always nice. You know, you can.
Okay.
I certainly would like independence.
All right, we've narrowed it down to 62 jobs with high income and prestige. What was that?
Independence.
Independence. All right, we'll go high on that.
Okay. Help.
We're down to 60. We have to get it down a little bit.
Oh, I'll get you there. Let's see. I don't want to help others. Not very much. Well, charity and stuff. Security doesn't interest me. Variety. Yeah, that would.
Okay, variety.
Yeah. Leadership.
We've got it down to 56.
56 different jobs that meet
You'd like
those three
some-
tests so far.
Some leadership you want to
Right.
throw
Yeah.
in
I
here.
got to have some leadership.
Okay.
Yeah.
Say leadership. We have it down to 19. Let's take a look at some of those.
Okay.
All right.
So I could have been any of the following: advertising manager, agronomist, airplane pilot, never, lawyer, attorney, yes, banker, no, civil engineer, director of industrial relations or social service, educator, health and weight coordinator, health and welfare coordinator, industrial engineer. Why isn't it television or communications or something?
Apparently that wasn't the value that selected these occupations here. Now, we could go back and look at other areas. It may be that we missed that variable, or it may be the definition of the terms.
Or maybe I'm in the wrong business.
That could be.
Right?
I doubt it, however.
I should have been an agronomist.
Now, when a child is, or a student is really using this, for each occupation, there is information in the machine about the nature of that occupation, what average salaries are, what kind of employment opportunities there are, how that student's grades might relate
Now,
to his success
a
in
final
school.
question. Does this miraculous machine do away with the necessity of a guidance counselor, or does it aid and abet him?
It is really an extension. Today, the average figure in the United States is that there are 420 students for every guidance counselor. And that guidance counselor is servicing students on scheduling classes as well as their outlook on the future. So they're a very overworked group of people with a vast amount of information. The high school student today looking at over 22,000 jobs. The information here is really an assist to that counselor in helping the student get on the right track. So an
I
extension.
thought you might be interested that while we were doing this, this is just a terminal, and we were really connected to a computer where all this information was resident. That's 30 miles from here over conventional telephone lines. We just dial up, connect in, and communicate in this rapid way back and forth through this device into a computer system.
How can they do all that and they disconnect a call that I'm having 2 blocks away?
That sometimes happens when we...
Gentlemen, I
release
thank you.
these
It's
things.
been fascinating. Thank you,
Right.
Dr. Robinson.
Thank you very
We'll
much.
be right back with more. You've met Nolan Bushnell earlier. He is president of Atari Incorporated, which is the largest manufacturer of home computer games.
Right.
Well, first question. How much does it cost to buy one of these installations? It'll play on any empty channel, right?
Correct. Well, if it's basically channel 3,
Channel 3,
4.
okay. There's no, in my city of New York, there's no station 3. So you play the game on an empty channel. How much does it cost to buy the basic unit?
About $170, $180.
Right. And it plays on your home television set.
That's correct.
Right. Now then it plays particular games. How many
Correct.
games do you have?
Oh, there'll be thousands very shortly. We've got about 20 different cartridges for this Christmas. Some of them have as many as 50 game variations, games on them. Some of them have 1 or 2 games.
Now the cartridge that you've got up now, or these cartridges that we see on top of the set, how much does each cartridge cost?
$19 is the general price.
Right, and how many games, different games, are on each cartridge?
Well, the one that we have up is Gunfighter. Several of the games have 50. A couple of them have just 2. It's not as much the matter of different games, but some of them are much more difficult to program. And
right. Now this is called Gunfighter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we play
Shades of the Old West.
and this is the control device.
Right.
Now this thing moves them up and moves them down.
Correct.
And this button fires the shots.
Right.
And I guess the aim of this thing is to see which of our gunfighters,
Right.
well, having invented the game, no doubt, can you make our score even? Can you make it go back to 0?
Sure.
Okay. Now we're starting even. And you're the blue one.
Right.
And I'm the orange one.
And the cactus is in the way.
The
I'm going
cactus
to hide
is in the
behind
way.
the cactus.
Right.
I'm going to run up, see if I missed you.
Oh, gosh. You did it.
I hate to tell you, but I've practiced.
There. Okay. No, but I pressed and that's because you shot.
Oh, oops.
Okay.
Got me when I wasn't looking.
I guess I could stay down there and you can't get me, right?
Well, no, I'll sneak down.
Oh, shucks. My bullets are going into the...
Well, you're aiming your gun down, so you can either move your man up and down. But if you keep holding it down, once you...
Come on up like a man. It's great fun. What,
let's try another. Air sea battle. That's kind of a fun one.
Okay. Now, those are planes, right?
These are planes.
And what are those? Are the submarines?
Okay, these are, well, you can call them submarines or cannons or whatever you want to, but now we're trying to see if I can... Oops.
I got one.
You have an advantage.
Why?
Well, you're not nervous and I am. I'm supposed to be the good game player.
You got to fire earlier. Even earlier. Earlier.
There we go. Then there's some other variations on here. I'm stepping through. See the number up in the corner? That tells the game variation.
Game.
And
These are ships.
I'm in 9. That's ships. That's 10. Now it's ships that have little mines there.
Right.
Here's 11. That's with different ships that go different speeds and that sort of thing. So let's try that one for a few minutes. Now we can steer our cannon back and forth, and we'll call it a submarine. Good one.
I think I got one. Hey, I like that. I think I'm better at this. Yeah. I think I was meant for cannons.
Anyway, we can step through again, and that's one with the shooting arcade. We have clowns and rabbits and ducks you can try to get. Here's one where you can drop, where you have Polaris submarines against other...
Submarines against planes.
Submarines against planes. We want to try that one?
All right.
Okay, I'm the red,
You're the red
submarine, and you're the blue. And we're trying to get the airplane.
I got one.
Right. Boy. There we go. Let's see, you want to try another one?
Oh, yeah, I could. Let's go on all night.
Here's combat. Maybe...
Combat.
It's a little noisy. Oh, here's one that's interesting. Here's one that we call invisible tank. Now you say invisible.
I would say invisible.
And now you're only visible when you're firing a missile, so you can sneak all around the screen if you want to.
How do I move myself?
Well, you can remember by hitting it. That's not very visual. We can change games. See, there are 27 game variations here.
Right.
Some of them. Here's one that have airplanes. Okay. Now we can...
Where are the shots coming from?
Well, you're the pink airplane, and I'm the green. We can go on. Now, another game, we can give our airplanes, let's see. There's a lot of big planes against some little ones. I was trying to... One of them has machine guns. I can't find it. There we go. Anyway, those are jet planes. Now you're the pink guy. I'm the green guy.
I can get my plane.
There we go. Just push them right. Push it right or left.
Boy.
Anyway, this is what we call the combat cartridge, and as you can see, there's a lot of them. Some of them are Code Breaker or Hangman or Baseball. All sorts of fun.
Hey, Nolan, I want to ask you a question. How many games? Can you turn that on? Sure. How many games did you sell last year?
We sold almost 1 million games.
1 million games. And they cost $170 or so.
Well, this is the high line. This is what we call the programmable. This can do anything. We've got some other games that were like the Pong game that we had a couple of years ago, in which that was the only game you could play. This is the top of the line.
Top of the line. You know, you realize the impact this is going to have on American marriage?
Well, I hope it helps it.
It's going to bring people closer together.
Absolutely.
I mean, those couples that have nothing to talk about, and their number is leisure,
but
can just sit here and fire away at it, and, you know, bomb each other, and it'll be terrific.
Well, there's
It'll
racing
drive
games
the divorce
where you
rate down, and
well, for the first time, a lot of times, kids can play a game with their parents and actually beat their parents without them throwing the game at all, because they stay home.
Sure, 'cause
and so all of a sudden their sense of self-worth and everything is so great. I know there are several 8-year-olds that can beat me every game up there.
oh, my daughter, 11, could run me right out of town. I congratulate you for the invention of it. And also, I think if you have $1 million this year, you'll have $5 million 2 years down the road, and then $100 million. I mean, it can only go like blazes.
Well, I hope that we can do some very, very constructive things here, and maybe we can talk a little bit later on some about the impact. But
Yeah,
it's
we're going to do that.
A lot
and
of fun
thank you.
things.
I had great fun, and I learned something.
It's a
When we
good
come
day.
back, we're going to show you one more set of computers, the kind that you can have in your own home beside game playing. All terminal computer, and that's your invention, isn't it?
No, sir, I did not design it. It's named after me, but...
Well, that's a great honor. This is a home device, correct?
Right. This is a very powerful computer that can be used in the home or in small business, and it is capable of doing an enormous number of tasks contingent on how you program it.
Leslie, you have called this computer a great friend and companion in the home.
Right. Right.
Why?
Well, it can do any one of literally thousands of things. It can keep track of records, menus, birthdays, telephone numbers. It can be used to babysit.
This
it can
can
play
babysit?
Babysit, yes, sir.
How?
It has, you see the microphone, it has a vocal input,
Right.
which means that the microphone can be put in a child's room, for example. And if the child wakens during the night and cries, the computer will alert the parents, turn on the lights, do something.
Do you see that microphone?
This is just a conventional microphone.
Just a conventional microphone
Right.
tied up to a very unconventional computer.
Wait,
Now,
this
there
this
is
a
one...
completely normal computer.
Yes.
All computers are more or less alike. They just become different machines when you change the program.
Okay.
And the program, of course, diskette,
Diskette.
which
Okay.
holds, in this particular case, 70,000 words of information.
70,000 words are on here?
70,000 words on this diskette.
70,000 words are on here.
I think you mean bytes of information,
Bytes of
characters.
yes, bytes. Yes.
All right.
yes.
Now, let's come to what this computer, which could be in anybody's home, how much is it?
About $3,000 for this machine, without some of the other equipment, which may bring it up to $4,000 or $5,000. Now, for a small business, consider the fact that this can keep inventory, do payrolls, do all of the work in an office for $6,000, which is quite a lot less than you would pay, maybe I shouldn't say it, a human being, and will be at your beck and call 24 hours a day, and also
I'd rather have a human being at my
Yes.
beck and call.
It
I mean,
will
this
also
is, it's not
survey-
easy fun touching it. Or,
It will also
It's lovely
keep tabs on
looking.
your intrusion alarms, fire alarms, water levels,
Terrific.
the entire
What
operation.
tonight, is this computer programmed to do? Well, can it play some music?
Right now we are equipped to play a little music.
Bartok.
Almost right. Mr. Scott Joplin, this is probably the first ragtime honky-tonk computer you've heard. Most of the computers or the synthesized music has been Bach. The machine will play Bach, but I felt this was a little lighter.
But why this instead of a, what do you call it, a record player where you have the, you know, the...
Tape recorder or whatever. Well, you can enter the
Just something to cry by for the $5,000 you spent.
It's not
No,
just
no,
a
no, no, no,
musical
no.
instrument.
It is not just...
It will hold the notes. The composer,
Hold a note.
The composer can type once he's played his notes in. They're all there as if they were written in on a musical staff. He can then say, "Gee, I want to change this passage. Play it again, Sam," and it runs right on through. He can change the instrument he hears it through by changing. The
Can you put
program.
on something classical?
Well, I will stop the computer.
You have to go through the monitor. Don't you?
I have to go through the disc and tell it to do that. The machine starts up. I'll tell it to come over here, and I will tell it to score the particular music I have in there, and then we will play it. Johann Sebastian Bach.
Bach.
3-part inventions. Invention number 8.
How many instruments?
One harpsichord-like instrument.
Can you change the instrumentation?
Not without filtering. We have other devices, like an electronic organ, in which we can change the voicing of the sound you hear to emulate any sound that a conventional electro organ will make. Now, to get back to why a $5,000 tape recorder, why a $5,000 machine to emulate a 1995 tape recorder, as Ted pointed out, you can write your own music. There are thousands of music students, music schools, music educators in this country who have ideas for fugues or rock, whatever you wish. And they can write the music because every note of one octave is identified by a letter. You merely type, measure one, voice one, type in the letters, type in the duration by a number.
Can you give me an extraordinary example of how this could make a mathematical computation?
Well, very simple. We have a language, a high-level language called BASIC.
We're not reading this very clearly, I suspect.
Okay.
So if you can tell us what you're doing.
Okay, I've asked the machine to go into an English-speaking mode, or should I say an English-writing mode.
Okay.
As an example of this, you can say, print something real fancy like 2 plus 2.
2 plus 2?
Yes, something real.
I think I
comes
know
up
that.
with 4.
Power of the 20th century.
Now we can say something as interesting as print the square root of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, if you like, right? Which, gazunk, there it is.
What is it?
35,136.858.
That's invaluable.
Well, this is to show you the power of it. Now,
Give it a tough problem.
I certainly will, and I've got one on here.
Light travels at 186,000 miles a second. Right?
Funny you should ask.
Yeah, I don't know why I asked.
Light travels at 186,000 miles a second. Now, can you imagine how far light would travel in 1 year?
No, I can't.
That's called a long distance.
That's a long distance.
Now, can you imagine a cube suspended in space, 100 light years on each side?
No,
Big.
but go ahead.
Gigantic is the name for that one.
Yeah.
Fella comes over to you and he says, look, I've got these 1-inch cubes of plastic.
Yeah.
I'm going to fill that box. How many would I need? Now,
You can't do it in BASIC. I don't think it has enough precision.
Not quite the precision, but very, very close.
Now,
Now,
an approximate number.
yes. Now, you can take your slide rule, your calculators, your oiled-up abacus, whatever you will, but you can't do it faster than this. Yes, sir. Murphy's Law once again enters the picture.
Anything that can get fouled up will get fouled up.
Right.
There's the program.
In 1.2 seconds, there are 5.1439442 to the 58th inches in a cube, 100 light years on the side.
Is that 5 trillion?
That's a large number. What is, Ted, 5 to the 58th?
It's much larger than that.
It's
It's past trillions.
Oh, past
oh yes,
quintillions.
It's almost the it's almost the federal budget. Yeah. Okay. Leslie Solomon, Ted Nelson, let's go back and talk about this
Right.
fascinating time that we're living in. We'll be right back with more. I found that stuff fascinating. I mean, I think you're in the miraculous world that's just starting to happen. But there's so much mystique and mystery and some fear about it all. Actually, the computer is just as good as what's fed into it, right? There's the big thing.
There's a
Garbage
phrase in
in,
the
garbage out.
Yes.
That's a phrase in the industry, JIGO, garbage in, garbage out. It will only do what you tell it. And if you've put in a lot of misinformation, you'll get it back in very orderly columns. But you've got to be very careful not to, to remember that it's also like what you read. Because it's printed on a page doesn't make it any more true than someone just telling it to you casually. But you tend to believe what you read. And I think for a while, people are going to tend to put too much faith in what they see on a computer because they'll believe that if it's there, it must be true.
I think the most important thing is going to be educating the public to the fact that each computer program is built around a specific idea and a specific premise which expresses the thinking of the people behind it. Now, on the IBM guidance counseling program over here, for example, we saw the excellent advantages, but it also did not suggest that Mr. Susskind go into show business. And I think there's a reason for that. Not that you shouldn't be in show business, but rather that there's a little more to it than what that program is doing. Now, as sophisticated people, I think we can all see that what it was doing is riffling through the different properties of the different occupations. But if someone takes that too strongly to heart to see that there are other possibilities not open, then that can be confusing.
It's not that a person can't look up any one of those facts. I mean, as you pointed out, we can look up the distance between London and Paris in an almanac. We can look up the course curriculum at a particular university. It's when you want ready access to all that information, and more than that, when you want it related and juxtaposed in some logical fashion so that it takes on a new meaning, then suddenly the computer plays
But
a very
it had,
significant
for
role.
instance, that firefighters had a secure occupation. Well, that's maybe true financially, but they tend to, every once in a while, get killed in a fire. So maybe that security aspect wasn't considered in the
I can
use
give
of
an
the
example.
word.
For example, in Kansas City, the firemen in Kansas City, when an alarm rings, there's a computer system there that immediately prints out for the firemen an indication of where they're going because of where the alarm came from, and whether there's information in the machine about whether there were invalids at that particular address or combustible materials or maybe a large dog or something of that sort, where in that case the name of the trainer or some contact is in the machine. So when the firemen are on their way to the fire, they have prior knowledge about whether they need more ambulances, more equipment, special aids, or whether they have to call people
But
to unlock
let me
doors.
ask you a question. Is it possible, for example, on the high school guidance counseling that you programmed it incorrectly in the sense that you didn't respect or take into account communications, radio, television, the theater, or something, as a profession?
They rated all these professions very carefully, but the point is that many professions are more varied than a simple rating would suggest. In other words, the method was valid as far as it went.
That's why, first of all, that's why you have to have a human career planner working with the people that are trying to do this. And of course, the information is only as good as the data that's fed in. But the data is done by professional career counseling people, and the data comes from federal government files, from university files, and has to be checked and double-checked, and the program has to be very carefully worked out to make sure that it takes into account everything you really want to do. Because if you leave something out, the machine is not able on its own to fill in that gap, to anticipate that omission. And
So the machine is as good as its programming and the programmer, right?
Exactly. Well, the world is full of trade-offs, and when we look at something new, so many times we want to say it's a perfect thing. And as your phone bill, for example, most of your phone bills or so many things are done by computers, and people get so angry and they say, "Look at this damn computer! You know, it is fouled up again because I got billed wrong." But they don't realize that that what they're really doing, though, is they're saving maybe $2 a month on their bill because the billing cost would be so much more. And so they say, well, which would you rather do? Take the chance of a foul up once in a while or pay $2 extra every time? You know, it's the old problem of the phone company. One in every...
Well, then you also have the situation of human beings striking back. If you really want to aggravate the computer that's been aggravating you, then overpay the bill by a nickel. And it will spend years trying to sort your account out. It will send you credits. It will mail you letters. It will do all sorts of things.
It'll just give you an extra nickel.
Oh no, they'll never really get organized and send you the nickel. They'll just give you, I mean, which would save them a fortune. But
Can you discombobulate the phone company and send them 80 cents?
It's a myth.
Extra?
It's a myth.
And will it drive them up the wall?
Well, I don't think the phone company is probably capable of handling it, but the average small store that gets involved in this kind of situation can really get tangled up with the nickel.
It is true.
Because a human being would say, well, for their nickel, I'll forget doing this, or this is getting ridiculous. But the machine will type out letters and put it in envelopes and put a dime stamp on each time. And
the real challenge you're talking about is the programmer or the systems analyst who is really solving the problem and then feeding that solution into the machine has to have thought of all the possible things that could happen. And it turns out that the obvious things are easy to think of, and the subtler things are a little harder to think of. So, for example, in what we're discussing, in case of billing, if you forget to include the case where there is no bill at the end of a month, I mean, you've incurred no charges. If you don't realize that that is a case that must be handled, the machine might print a bill for $0.00. And then mail it to you. And then if it doesn't receive a check for $0.00, It could, if one had not thought it out very carefully, even send you a dunning notice for not having paid the bill. So the systems analyst must anticipate every kind of case and eliminate those absurd cases so we don't get bills for $0 or we don't get dunning notices for not having paid a bill for $0.
Leslie.
Don't be frightened by these computers. They are no more intelligent than the cash register in your local supermarket. A little faster, but no more intelligent. Keep that in mind.
Yeah, I can remember the first, when I first took a programming class, I had myths in my mind about what the computer was, and the thing that amazed me
There are no
was
giant brains.
that it's a reverse problem. The complexity of the computer isn't the thing that boggled me, it's the stupidity of the computer, i.e. that I had to break down the process of thinking into its least common
Cover
denominator.
every single detail.
To cover, yeah, and explain everything. It'll do everything that you describe it to do very, very well. But if you forget one little thing, so you have to get back and the things that you think to go from here to there in your mind process, there may be 30 steps.
Yeah, like that computer, it could have been off a billion or so miles.
You never know.
It will march over the cliff. I mean,
Oh,
if you
yes.
order it to march over the cliff and you forget to tell it when you get to the edge, stop, you
It'll
will
keep
watch
going.
your army proceed gently over the
For
cliff
example,
indefinitely.
if you take your car out of the garage in the morning, before you do it, sit down at breakfast and enumerate every step that you need to take your car out of the garage. After you have written this down, go take your car out the garage and see how many times you run into a wall, or you forget to start the engine, or you forget to close the car door, or you run over somebody. But just try that one time. That is called programming. You do this subconsciously.
Hold it, we'll be right back in a minute. So I sent it in, and a letter came back, and it said, answer the following questions. Do you have a bank account? Yes. Where? So forth, and I did. How much do you make a year? And I sent it back. The computer says, with respect to this letter comes back, always sign W.A. Knowlton or something. Dear Mr. Susskind, as if we were really old friends. What kind of banking account do you have? Is it a checking account or a savings account? I wrote back and I said, I have both. I have a checking account and a savings account. Back came the computer letter saying, is your checking account a minimum balance checking account, or is it a checking account having to do with 10 cents per check?
These sound like afterthoughts in the program that were being prepared week by week.
I got 7 letters. So I finally said, I sent a wire. I figured computers can't handle telegrams. I said, dear Mr. Knowlton, if I don't get a carte blanche credit card in the return mail, if I get one more question about my banking activities, I am going to buy the Hilton hotel chain and fire you. And in return mail, I got the card. And an apology, and the letter suggested, and hotels at this time are not a very good investment. I urge you not to buy it. I also have children and a wife, and I would not enjoy being fired.
There are also probably 23 Mr. Knowltons answering letters warmly when you finally crash through the computerized Mr. Knowlton, who probably sends out 10,000 letters a day or a week.
An important new development here is that citizens are going to be able to strike back soon. When we have our home computers and the software for this is coming down the line monthly, we'll be able to ask it to done back to the company, and we'll have whole libraries of replies to dunning letters and evasions and countermeasures to be taken by your computer against their computer. The important thing is to get yourself into the exception processing mechanism with all of these, so that you bypass the standard response and some human being has to say, what the heck is this? Tie your letter to a brick, that kind of thing. Very effective, and automatic letters will help.
That's a wonderful idea, countermeasures.
Well, I really believe that the biggest thing that we're building are fantastic toys. I mean, I'm in the game business, but all these other computer things, the countermeasures and things like that, if you step back and abstract yourself a little bit, I mean, what's life about? It's to basically have fun and make an accomplishment. And I think, I think we can do both.
The game approach here is going to be really the center of the new future, because our home computer programs are going to be video games for the mind. The really good ones that I think that we'll see in about a year will have all kinds of graphics and pops and bangs like Nolan Bushnell stuff, as well as doing intelligent things and helping you step through the things you want to keep track of as easily as you possibly can.
Are you troubled by the increasing worry on the part of some sociologists and some scientists and some mystery writers, Asimov, I think, is one of them, who fear a computer takeover of society. In other words, I remember Mr. Carter, President Carter, vetoed an $800 million appropriation bill for a gigantic computer that would give the Internal Revenue Service a new instrument to, you know, double check you and triple check you. But it involved digging deeper into your tax return in ways that threatened personal...
I think you're going to have to fight very hard against national computer banks of information where they can ask literally, they can take your tax information, compare it with the airline reservation systems information and various others, and know everywhere you went, and that this would be available to any agency of the government. And I think there is a concern about this, and there are government agencies worrying about it, but clearly it's so easy for them to do it.
Also, now that you have this problem of computer freaks breaking into the system, like the phone freaks, and diving through and independently ascertaining this information or changing your bank account.
That is
That'll be
going
another
on.
one.
And also remember, it's 6 years to 1984.
I think, however, the other one, the idea that computers really taking over and running society, is as long as you can sneak in when it isn't looking and pull its plug, I think we can still have some, you know, reasonable feeling that we'll
The real
survive.
challenge is to understand how to use these machines to improve our lot in life and improve the human condition. And even Isaac Asimov, in writing his books on robots, he invented the notion of robotics, kind of a pseudoscience of robotics, and he postulated that before he started to write his robot stories, most of the robot stories had the same kind of plot line, namely, man invents a robot, robot kills man. And he suggested really in his robot stories that that need not be so, that robots, the whole notion of a robot is something that can help man. The robot comes from the famous 1921 play R.U.R., with a Czechoslovakian play, where robot in Czechoslovakian stands for the word worker. And R.U.R. was the title of Rosom's Universal Robot. And when Asimov started to write his robot stories, he postulated 3 laws of robotics. And the first law was that a robot can never injure a human being or the person that owns it. And the second law was that the robot could only obey orders that were given to it as long as it didn't violate the first law. And the third law was that the robot would always do whatever it had to do to protect itself, as long as in doing that it didn't violate the first 2 laws. So his robots are really human service robots. They're robots that help people. He projects a society in which the robot technology is one where we live a more fruitful life because of the availability of instruments.
But one of our chief of staffs, I did so much reading in connection with this show. He was an admiral. Was his name Moore? One of them was chief of staff, and he said a few years back that the Pentagon was at the mercy of the damn computer.
Mm-hmm.
He was afraid
They got to
of that.
be at the mercy of somebody.
Yeah, but better a compassionate president and head of the military establishment.
Yes, but keep in mind that as the years go by, we accumulate more and more data. Things are getting extremely complicated, and there are a million bits of papers running around. Data is accumulating at a geometric
Yes, Leslie,
increase.
but isn't it possible
you need a
that with
computer
nuclear weapons and neutron bombs coming and all of this stuff is computerized so that the SAC headquarters underground in Colorado somewhere, that it could go amok.
go awry? There's a very interesting
The
story.
bombs could go the wrong way, hit our own cities.
Yes,
I mean,
there's an interesting story that
that's
I
more than
heard.
theoretically possible, isn't it?
Well, the story. Most computers, most military equipment are made to what is called military specs, which means they must be able to tolerate extremes in temperature, extremes in radiation, extremes in vibration. And all over the world we have radar, computers, aircraft, missiles, submarines, all running on mil-spec equipment. The only problem is human beings aren't built to mil-specs. Pop goes the neutron bomb or whatever, everybody's dead, but this does not slow the machinery down. And after a while, all the equipment is working all over the world and not a single human being around.
There was an extraordinary report in Harper's a month or so ago on the actual network of command and control that does exist and the way the computer is tied in. Essentially, according to this, there is a scary computer somewhere out there that constantly is playing and replaying World War III. And now, but what is claimed for this system is merely that it presents the commander-in-chief with a variety of alternatives. Let's see, I'll have 2 from column A, 1 from column B. So let's start with 10 million civilians dead on the other side and take out 1/5 of their industrial capacity, and we'll play it from there. And then the point is that having been given these figures, this machine then allocates all the particular...
I feel more comfortable with Nolan's gunfighter. Remember the 2 guys with the cactus in the earlier part of the program?
It's called thinking beyond thinking.
Nice way to let all your aggression out.
Yeah, I think we
And
can
the TV
get
screen.
bogged down on the, obviously, technology is used in warfare. And, you know, since the computer is a technological instrument, as was a gun, as was gunpowder and things like that, we can focus on that.
But it's also used in education and in
But
medicine
exactly.
and improving our lives. It's used in helping us regulate
The most exciting thing that I've
traffic.
had happen, I gave a computer to a school in New York about 8 years ago. It cost about $10,000. Came, I think, from Hewlett-Packard. And I didn't know whether the kids would use it. Well, it turned out they used it all the time, and they used it into Saturdays, and they came into school specially, and the major problem with it was never turned off. It worked out fine. Well, this year, I moved to the country, and I felt I wanted to, I want my kids to know more about computers than I do, so I gave an Apple computer to the school the kids are going to now. It cost $1,000. It had about twice the capacity of the Hewlett-Packard machine. Hewlett-Packard now makes better ones, but this is an 8-year, for 1/10 the price. Well, my 13-year-old's learning to type because he wants to talk to the computer. He doesn't really want to type to talk to his teacher, but he's fascinated because that's the only way he can talk to this computer.
I think the cutting edge of personal computing will be in the high schools.
And I think the reason it happens at that level is it's like learning a foreign language. If you know, think of diplomats, they go abroad, it's the kids who end up being able to learn the language and translate for their parents. And I think this is the same thing that's going to happen with computers. They're going to learn the language in school, feel comfortable with it, and they're going to come home and tell us, don't worry about it, it's something, it does things for me.
Hold it. We'll be right back. The computer and the child. I know in my home we have a number of pocket calculators, and my wife uses it to balance her checkbook, hoping that the Citibank made a mistake or something. Of course, they never do. And my daughter, 11, in the 6th, 7th grade, is she's now using it to do math problems at home. Now, if she has to multiply 178 by 264, I remember the way we did it, and it wasn't fun. It isn't fun today, but it was a discipline. And you had to do, you know, how you did it, and it was a very effective run-through of the brain muscle. Now she takes this thing and 268 times 274, and she has the answer, and she writes it right down. Isn't that bad?
Not really. She's going to be, I think she does once she knows the principle, and I think at some point somebody's going to have to make you do it in a pencil without a calculator in the class so you know how it happens. But Oriental kids have been using the abacus for a couple of hundred years to hundreds of years beyond that to speed up the process. We now hear about Chisholm Bop with the fingers, and I gather kids can do that. I don't care how they get to the answer as long as they know what the problem is and they can start defining it, and that gets fascinating with computers. Because I have an 11-year-old who is learning how to talk to this computer. And he's learning the discipline of not running the car out of the garage and into the wall. He has to think every step of the way. And as the world gets more complicated, he's learning to think about those problems much earlier.
Sure,
he's gone way beyond the 2 plus 2.
Arithmetic as a skill is one thing, but learning to apply the arithmetic skills in order to solve real problems is something else again. And the availability of calculators or even computer terminals makes it so much easier to apply yourself to solving problems. It's really a source of inducement and encouragement to young people to go at it and learn how to apply.
They can actually compete with Nolan on some of these things. On an Apple computer, you can put in a game as complicated as some of the games that he has, and the kid can sit there and say, you know, that gunfighter's altogether too tall. What would happen if I had a short, skinny little gunfighter? And the guy has to think of making a little program that puts in a short, skinny little gunfighter that looks a lot like him.
We've even spoken about mathematical problems as sometimes being mathematical games. In fact, the mathematical game notion is a very common thing. And doing puzzles goes back hundreds and hundreds of years as an attribute of learning it.
Teachers don't endorse it to the extent that you do.
Oh, they certainly do in computers.
No, yes, with computers, but the teachers have advised don't allow the child to do it on a calculator.
I think the teachers suffer from the same problem that you got, which is they didn't do it that way. But it's a little like fraternity initiations. They keep going on because you had to suffer, therefore I'm going to, you know, cause the new generation to suffer. I basically think that we've got enough problems that we might as well get on to solving the problems with the quickest solutions we've got, because the problems are proliferating, and if we still use the same tools we had 40 years ago, we're going to continue lagging further behind.
Why not have a person learn how to add and subtract by playing a blackjack game or playing a game, which they have fun and they think, gee, I'd like to be able to play this game with my dad better. So they say, well, I'm going to have to learn how to add and subtract more. It's not arduous for them because they perceive it as something fun.
National Semiconductor, we make a pair of calculators that hook together with a wire, and you can compete in math problems, and it generates a problem. And two kids race each other to see how many correct answers they can get in a short space of time.
And it's a lot of fun.
And the one that gets the right answer in fastest gets a score. Boy, it's an incredible fun. They also can do more math in their head that way than, because in this case, the thing asks a question. The little calculator says 2 times 3 equals, and it's blank. And then they have to think of 6 and put it in quick.
But the next stage of education,
it's just an educational tool.
The next stage of education will be computer screens with color enactments of all kinds, combining the Atari sort of video game with color and sound effects, with history,
exactly,
with literature.
And you
I want to
this
see
in
game.
the-
I want to see kids be able to play, let's say, Napoleon on a large-scale map and understand that he's got to do the political stuff as well as the military stuff.
Right now, you can take again, one of the computers like the Sol computer or an Apple or one of those computers, put it at home with a printer, and tap it in on a phone line to an information bank. For instance, the Wall Street Journal has one, and it keeps it up to date for 90 days. And you can ask the Wall Street Journal any question you want that's relevant to something they might have written. If you're interested in every article that was written about the German economic structure, it'll print them out. What it also means, you'll end up with specialized newspapers, because instead of reading through the Sunday Times, which is this thick, maybe you're only interested in South American butterflies and Norwegian fishing boats. And what you can do is simply program into the machine anything that comes out on those 2 subjects I want to see. I don't want to hear about anything else. And you could end up very rapidly becoming the world's greatest expert on South American butterflies.
Peter, why did you say, therefore, in some piece that you wrote, that even though you're in the business and you recognize its dynamic contribution to the tomorrow that's coming, that you have mixed feelings about the computer boom?
Well, I think that, people can get too wrapped up in technology. I mean, what that earlier discussion we had, I really meant as a joke. Is one of the reasons. I mean, to me, it was a ludicrous idea, and even though it was ludicrous, unfortunately, it might work. But it was still basically ludicrous. I happen to think that there's a great deal of just plain living that one does. I happen to get most of my enjoyment on a farm in western Massachusetts with an uneconomic number of sheep, pigs, and goats, and I spend a lot of time, when I can get away from all of this, taking a long walk in the woods. And I just think at some point the long walk, somebody has to say one good word for the long walk in the woods while we're at it.
Here,
Right.
here.
Because I also make large screen televisions.
But there's also
and if that
gonna be-
means that the American family, instead of spending 4 hours a day in front of the television, because the large screen is a more exciting experience, spends 6 hours a day in front of the television, I'd feel badly about it. As it turns out, they spend about the same amount of time they'd spend anyway. But I don't happen to think that that's quite the replacement for the hearth, whether it's your game or my large television. I don't want to see that become the modern hearth in the family. I'd rather go back
just a
to
minute.
occasionally having some fire.
It's better to have an interactive system than a television system, right? I mean, that's pretty passive of you out there, isn't it? And the point is that we want the excitement of actually being able to do things together on the screen. The computer freaks, I think there are a lot of different types of people in computerdom, and there are computer straights, you might say, and there are computer freaks. And the computer freaks want to see a world, some of us, of barefoot people with happily with their bicycles and their computers. In other words, a return to the land, a return to simplicity, where the mental powers and record-keeping powers that we've had to delegate so much wasted energy to can be instantly taken care of by these smiling faces and brightly colored screens everywhere.
Yeah, I don't know if they're barefoot, but there are a couple hundred colleges that are now offering undergraduate courses in information sciences, and there are something under 100 colleges that even offer graduate degrees in this. And almost anyone learning now in one of the social sciences or physical science or in mathematics it uses this as a tool to advance their knowledge in order to progress more rapidly, in order to get a better grasp of what's happening. And there are many information retrieval systems like you described.
Oh, I know.
There's the New York Times, for example, has an information bank where on a regular basis they abstract there's 70 different publications and journals, and one has direct access to them and through their terminals. In fact, I happened to be visiting the Times a little while ago, demonstrating that to some friends with the help of people at the Times, and we were asked to put a query into the machine, to ask it a question about something, and one of the people with us said, well, how about asking it whether there was any story in the New York Times about Kosygin and ice cream simultaneously in one story. And then the screen lit up and gave us all kinds of options about whether we wanted a story that was associated with the pictures or whether it was a front page story or a magazine story or what have you. And when we finally answered all the questions, it indicated, yes, there was such a story, that when Kosygin was leaving the United States, a reporter at Kennedy Airport asked him what his favorite dish was while he was in the United States, and he answered, baked Alaska. And even though the inquiry was there a story about Kosygin and ice cream, the retrieval was able to respond that yes, there was a story
That's
that
a fairly sophisticated program.
Indeed.
Can you imagine the man sitting and wrote that original thing
Well,
saying
that's a
ice
function
cream
of the
is a
cleverness of the editor who put the
Baked
information
Alaska
in.
is a subset of
That's
ice
right.
cream, you know. I mean, it's
That's a
a
function of
marvelous
clever-
idea.
But that
I think what we
represents the
basically
power of
want
that
to
kind
do,
of system.
though, is take what man did for his brawn with the steam engine and steel and do it for his brain.
Hear, hear.
The computer wants to take the drudgery out of life so that we can do more living. But unfortunately, it's a power. And power, in the case of energy and steel, gave us the automobile, which kills a lot of people, you know, every year. And one of the things that the people that don't like computers, they say, hey, there's going to be some of these negative, bad things. And unfortunately, it's not a clean solution. There's just so many tremendous things that it's going to free up man so that we can walk in the woods, because some of our basic drudgery mental needs are taken care of. And sort of, you know,
one of the most extraordinary examples of this, we were talking about it earlier off the program, and I think it's worth bringing up again, this whole question of what's happening with, say, paraplegics, other people. Because if you look at, say, a semiconductor, which is basically how you build, you know, the building block of a computer, it is in the it's the nerves and logic of the human body, and it is in addition to what we've always known about, which was the muscle and the bone, the energy and the structure. All of a sudden, there are an enormous number of things you can do, and they're starting to try, and with people who have various kinds of disability, they're trying to duplicate those nerves and the logical functions, so that a paraplegic can now talk into one of these home computers, and it can now handle a vocabulary of 80 words. So if he's capable of speaking, he can now, well, I know that one easy, there's one that's 80 words
Control
now.
his immediate environment that way.
We'll come right back to this point. So they have helping the handicapped computers.
Well, the personal computer at home can be a very valuable asset to physically handicapped and particularly vocally handicapped people. We have peripheral devices that plug into the home computers that will take an audio input, and you can instruct the computer, when you hear this particular sound, print something on the screen, or through a controlling device, control a particular appliance. This means if you have a person, and we have too many of them today, who are confined to a wheelchair or to a bed, and the best they can do is make a repeatable sound. We can now take a simple computer, as we have here, train this person to make this particular sound, and have the computer say, when you hear this sound, print out the word hello, or goodbye, or how do you feel? Or when you hear this sound, turn on the lights, turn on the air conditioner, turn on the television, do any one of hundreds of things. This means that a person so confined can now control his environment and communicate with the world. And if he cannot make the sound, for example, twitch the eyeball or
Yeah, we
cheek
have
or the ear.
games right now, and you say, you know, people who are handicapped need to have fun and have some wins in their life. And we have a game in which if you can only say control one or two muscles, maybe your eyebrow or something like that, we can actually hook our game, some of our games, to a little headband. If you can twitch your left eyebrow, I can play my right eyebrow against your left big toe if you're the person. And so all of a sudden these people who have been shut off to any kind of a competitive environment are all of a sudden competing and hopefully winning.
Consider deaf and blind people, for example. Besides being able to talk to some of these home computers, they also talk back, a demonstration that we did not go into. These are phoneme-oriented talkers. That is, they can say anything. They're not confined to any one of a half a dozen words. Now, if you have a person who is blind, we have readers, optical readers, that can read, essentially read the printed word and speak it. We have, for the people who are deaf, we can take the computer with what is called a modem, a telephone interconnect. Now, the deaf people can now communicate with each other at very high speed. This is being done today with teletypes under certain very restrictive conditions.
Peter, you are working on a cocktail party computer dispenser.
Oh, no. Well, that's the other half of my trivialization. I mean, we said there ought to be some humor with these things, and I think when you go from one end of talking about someone who's disabled, you can go to the other end and talk about games. And then they're bridge points. It's limited to human imagination. And I thought, you go into a cocktail party in New York and you don't know anyone there, and very often you'll end up in 20 minutes of conversation and discover you really have nothing in common with the person you're talking with.
That's about 5 minutes.
So why not make a little Marlboro cigarette pack that has a little keyboard on one side that you could put the information, just the man's name and the date on one side, and a little couple on the other side. So when you walk into a cocktail party, hopefully everyone will have these, you push two of them together and they do an instant scan of memory to decide what friends you might have in common. If it reads out less than 5, frankly, it's not worth talking to the gentleman, and you can unplug your two machines and go on and find someone else. And if you have 50 friends in common, it will tell you which friend you have longest in common. And then you can start talking about good old Joe that you both knew back in school. And if late in the evening you want to get on to other things, you can even incorporate a little black book and have a separate memory for those names you might not talk about up front with a stranger. Now, that particular device doesn't exist, but on the other hand, I don't think anyone here will tell me it can't be done. It's a little like the other gadget. Now, whether it will vastly improve the quality of intercommunication between people is another problem, but it should speed up the cocktail party and perhaps get you back to the onboard compatibility synchronizer.
Among your many activities, you're chairman of Aston Martin Motor Car Company, which is a great British car. You put some computers into your racing car.
Well, no, we have, in the standard car, we do not have computers, but we're coming out with a new car called the Lagonda, which we just crashed at 30 miles an hour for the benefit of the American government. When you've got a car that costs you, that sells for $75,000, watching it crash into a stone wall is a painful experience. But it has two computers in it. One that operates very simply, the automatic transmission, but the other is quite a substantial microprocessor, actually a mini computer from Texas Instruments in this case. And it controls all sorts of functions in the car. It keeps track of 17 different things that could go wrong, and it reads out on a little alphanumeric readout what goes wrong. So when you get in, if you don't fasten your seatbelts, it doesn't buzz at you. It just says, "Oh dear, seatbelts. Oh dear, seatbelts." Now that was done by an English programmer. I think when we bring it over here, it may say something blunter or simpler or what have you.
Damn it, your seatbelt.
That's the Texas version. Anyway, I think it'll do things like memorize where the seat is, so that if you have a large man with a small wife and they want to remember which way they adjusted a 6-way seat, they put it in memory, and you can take it out. You go over to France and you push one button and the whole car reads out now in kilometers and metric system instead of on the English system. It will also tell you that you've gotten halfway down the trip, and if you don't stop for gas, you're not going to make it, because you're going to run out of gas. In fact, we have a lot of redundant computer capacity, and as we develop the car and develop the systems, we will add things, including games for the passengers. Because we've got this computer sitting there with nothing to do, so we'll probably call up Nolan one of these days and say, look, we've got this $75,000 car, and King Hussein wants to play with a new game. And you can incorporate it. But what we're doing here is pioneering an area that will become standard. And there's nothing that we're putting in that won't be in every car in 10 years or in 5 years. And that's an interesting thing. It's a bit like those things I was scheming up. If you remember the James Bond Aston Martin, it had a little map with a dot on it that told you exactly where he was at all the time. Well, I think when that was done around 1964, they might have had those in helicopters, but I'm not sure. But today they have them in police cars. And so if we can think it up on this show, somebody's going to build it.
Eventually.
And there are only 5 or 6 of us here. There are thousands of us across the country, and there are a lot of fertile minds going down to my 11-year-old coming up with new things for this device to do, and it's going to be fun to see what happens.
There are computers in all the coin-operated games, Pong and that sort of thing, that you put a quarter in and do various things. We were talking the other day about doing a computer dating system, which you put a quarter in and you put a little bit in about yourself, and then it does and it gives you a code name, and you put your telephone number in, and then a young lady who wanted to meet you would also put a quarter into the machine, talk a little bit about herself on the item, and it would give my phone number out to the young lady, and we thought that could really be a lot of fun.
You see, then we get into countermeasure strategy again, and everybody's trying to psych out what answers will get them the best results according to whatever criteria they have in mind.
So it's another new game.
A meta game.
A meta game within the real game.
It's better than going to Maxwell's Plum, the bar, and hoping for the best, and
Well,
letting your eyes and ears do the picking.
It's not. I'm not willing to say it's better. I'm not willing to say it's worse. It's different.
Oh yeah, it's different.
Probably safer too.
It's probably.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, awful
Sometimes
lot
those
of
girls have big
mismatches
boyfriends.
possible. Anyway, we'll be right back. And certainly a divorce. Then, what can't the machines do?
There's an awful lot we can't do with programmable computers. And probably the best way to perceive the class of things is to try to look at what we're trying to imitate, trying to build machines and program machines to do the kinds of information processing feats that you and I do, that people do all the time. And there are several classes of feats that we do very easily that we don't even understand how people do them, let alone imitate that process in a machine. For example, the general area of broad pattern recognition. I mean, you and I could look at a picture of a Rembrandt and immediately recognize it. We could look at a picture by Picasso and immediately recognize it. And we could do that without measuring the carbon half-life of the canvas or the light reflectivity of the oils and things of that sort. And we do that by recognizing the entire pattern of that picture instantly in a process that is still very difficult for us to explain physiologically. So we try to understand that in computer technology and in research in computers. And one of the most patterned things is language, the way we speak. That's a pattern. And so we do experiments in language in an effort to understand how to program a computer to understand that kind of a pattern. And one of those experiments, a computer was fed a vocabulary of about 850 words. Now this is about the size of a vocabulary a kid has when he enters the school system. But instead of giving the definitions of the words, you just, because the computer wouldn't understand that anyway, you give only the word and then information about the word, whether it's a noun or a verb, and how to make it from singular to plural, and how to change the tense, things of that sort. And then it was given 32 grammatical rules, which aren't very many in English. For example, that the word order is that first is the subject, and then the predicate, and then the object, and that the subject is usually a noun, and the predicate usually a verb, things of that sort. And then it was given the rules for choosing words at random and composing a poem, and putting together a poem by counting off the meter. And I'd like to read you one of the poems that were composed by the computing machine in this way. Now the machine...
It's not deathless.
Not deathless prose. Okay. The machine went through the poem and picked at random one of the nouns it had used, and it turns out that the word roses appears in this poem, so it titled the poem Roses, and it goes like this. Few fingers go like narrow laughs, an ear won't keep few fishes. Who is that rose in that blind house? And all slim, gracious, blind plains are coming. They cry badly along the road. God. To leap is stuffy, to crawl was tender. Now, if that meant something to you, you got a problem, because it isn't supposed to mean something.
Well, this goes back to the chimpanzee chained to a typewriter will read the sonnets of Shakespeare, provided you got a good enough editor. But on the other hand, it's an awful long haul.
2 or 3 words sound like they fall in proper juxtaposition.
That's worse than Edgar Guest. I mean,
that's because it should be. And that's because the machine followed the rules that allowed those words to fall in that way. If you put a much larger vocabulary in, if you put many more grammatical rules, the chances are more phrases would sound like they made sense.
What's really fascinating is we've talked so much about the capacities of these computers, and they can remember an enormous number of numbers. But in fact, they are so far from the human mind in their capacities that there is no comparison. If you just take one blink and realize all the associations that you have, when I look at you 5 gentlemen, I mean, and the history behind those associations and conclusions, and somebody might look like an old friend, and that all of a sudden shoots through my head. They haven't even come close yet. I mean, we're absolutely just beginning to play around at the surface of trying to figure out what it might do.
You can't ask a machine to make an emotional judgment.
I know.
No, certainly that machine is not trying to tell us something about roses when it's programmed to compose that kind of a poem.
Or storage capacity. I say San Francisco, and all of a sudden you can put, if you've been to San Francisco, you can think of maybe 100 pictures of what San Francisco is. And when you look at that from a database standpoint, how much information is in those 100 pictures, and your ability to do that, and then think of your childhood and what your elementary school
bread smells like.
And exactly.
I've often wondered if you can come to the end. You know, like, that's all there is, there ain't no more. I have no room for any more information.
What's cute, well, chess is one of the complex things in life, and there's a little tiny chess game that costs about $240. Plays a pretty good game of chess. But in the upper reaches, there are a couple of exercises going on. There's a chess master in this country who's bet that the computer can't beat him, and he's marginal.
There's
also a war going on between the Russians
yes.
and the Americans in this area, and there's a
Allied.
Russian computer being programmed to beat an American computer.
And vice
each
versa.
year they do this, and vice versa. Last year the American computer won very easily because it made an absolutely absurd first move. And this completely confused the Russian machine because no one in Russia thought that the American computer would be so stupid as to do something this dumb, and therefore it had no response. So this enormous computer, probably a $3 or $4 million machine, threw in the towel over the fact that it couldn't deal with the first move. So we have to go back to the drawing boards, but this is, I think, if we have to have a peaceful game, a war game going on between the two countries, I'd settle for the confrontation of supercomputers at the chess-playing level.
Somebody wrote that having the modern computer in your home is like having Albert Einstein handle your checkbook and your finances and your stock portfolios, and having Bobby Fischer teach you chess and something else, some other incredible achiever at your command. Letting your imagination run wild, we have a minute left. Where do you see the ultimate reach of the computer?
There's no ultimate, but next year we're going to have computers in the home by the millions. And very few people are prepared for this. Now you can go down to Radio Shack and buy a functioning digital computer for $600 that would have cost $20,000 from IBM 15 years ago.
We're going
What
to
do
give
you
you
think?
great games to play next year, and the ultimate reach is just freeing your mind so that you can get on with being a human being and getting along with one another.
Let's hear it.
Peter Sprague.
I don't know, my imagination's been running rampant all evening. I think I may have run dry. I think that it just literally, it just keeps percolating forth. I see no end to the possibilities at all. It's just a question whether you want to dwell on them.
I think it's going to be an instrument that's going to open our minds to all new kinds of ideas and opportunities to do things in the information processing area, to do the kinds of things we couldn't have dreamed of doing without the availability of these kinds of instruments.
I want to thank you, five men. I have found it illuminating and fascinating, and I was very struck with the high caliber of you computer minds. I mean, you're extraordinary guys to talk to, and very interesting, and you have a sense of humor, a rare combination with scientists. We'll be back. Say goodnight.